Imagine living in a normal American town. Quiet streets, local schools, family homes. A place where everyone knows their neighbors. Now, imagine waking up one morning and realizing the very ground beneath your city is on fire. Not a blaze you can see, not flames you can fight. This is a fire trapped deep underground with nowhere to go. It's a slow, silent disaster that's been burning for decades. This is the true story of the city that slowly vanished, not because of a war, not because of a massive storm, but because of a fire that simply never stopped burning. It all started in a town called Centralia, Pennsylvania. Back in the early 1960s, Centralia was a typical working-class American town. It was a place built on coal. The community was tight-knit, with families who had lived there for generations, their lives intertwined with the rhythm of the mines. Nothing about it felt unusual or out of place. It was a proud, bustling town with a population of over 1,000 people. But like many towns, it faced a simple, everyday problem. What to do with its trash? The local landfill was getting full. So, in May of 1962, the town council came up with what seemed like a straightforward solution. They decided to clean up the landfill by setting the trash on fire to reduce its volume. It was a common practice at the time. No one could have possibly realized that this one decision, this seemingly minor act of civic housekeeping, would set in motion a chain of events that would erase their town from the map. Here's how it all went wrong. The plan was to burn the garbage in an old, abandoned strip mining pit that was being used as the town's landfill. Firefighters were on hand to control the blaze and extinguish it afterward. They lit the fire, let it burn for a while, and then, as planned, they put it out with water. Or so they thought. What nobody fully understood was the true danger lurking just beneath the surface. The landfill was located directly above a network of abandoned anthracite coal mines. These underground tunnels were a labyrinth of passages and rich coal seams. When the firefighters extinguished the surface fire, they didn't realize that an unsealed opening in the pit had allowed the embers to reach a coal vein. The fire didn't go out. Instead, it slipped underground like a phantom and began to spread silently through the maze of old mining tunnels. At first, no one noticed a thing. The town went on with its life, completely unaware that a relentless, subterranean inferno had just been born beneath their feet. For years, life in Centralia continued as normal. The underground fire was a slow-burn disaster, and its effects weren't immediately obvious. But then, strange things started to happen. In the 1970s, nearly a decade after the fire started, the warning signs became impossible to ignore. Residents began to notice smoke and steam rising from the ground in their backyards and through cracks in the asphalt. The roads started to buckle and develop deep fissures. People's basements became unusually warm, with some reporting temperatures over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. A distinct, rotten egg smell of sulfur often hung in the air. The fire, trapped beneath the town, was venting its heat and toxic gases wherever it could find an escape. Trees in the local cemetery began to die and fall over, their roots literally cooked in the hot soil. The ground itself was becoming unstable and dangerous. The hidden threat was finally making itself known. By the early 1980s, the situation had become a full-blown crisis. The most alarming incident happened in 1981 when a 12-year-old boy named Todd Dombowski fell into a sinkhole that suddenly opened up in his grandmother's backyard. The ground gave way, revealing a deep, steaming pit. He was saved only because he managed to grab onto a tree root until his cousin pulled him out. The hole was later measured to be over 150 feet deep, with lethal levels of carbon monoxide billowing from it. This event brought national attention to Centralia. Officials finally realized they couldn't just ignore the fire anymore. They tried everything. They spent millions of dollars trying to extinguish it. They dug deep trenches to cut off the fire's path. They tried to flush it out with water and smother it with non-combustible material. but nothing worked. The fire was too widespread, too deep. Finally, the government made a heartbreaking decision. The fire couldn't be stopped, so the people would have to leave. The federal government allocated over $42 million to buy out the residents' properties and relocate them. One by one, families packed their lives into boxes and moved away. Homes were demolished to prevent squatters and to discourage people from returning. The streets were closed. The town was slowly, systematically erased. But the fire kept burning. So why couldn't they stop it? The answer lies in the unique geology beneath Centralia. The area is rich with anthracite coal, one of the hardest and most high-energy forms of coal. The abandoned mine tunnels created a perfect environment for the fire to thrive. It was like a massive, underground charcoal grill. The maze of tunnels provided a near-endless supply of fuel and allowed oxygen to snake its way through, feeding the flames. Whenever engineers tried to cut off one path, the fire would simply find another. It could smolder for long periods with very little oxygen, only to flare up again when it found a new air source. It was a complex, three-dimensional problem that was almost impossible to map, let alone fight. The scale was just too immense. Experts estimated that there was enough coal underground to fuel the fire for another 250 years. The city standing on top of it never really stood a chance. It was a battle against geology and time that humans simply couldn't win. Today, Centralia is a ghost town. Driving through, you can still see the grid of streets, but most of the houses are gone. Only a handful of structures remain, occupied by a few stubborn residents who refuse to leave. The streets are eerily quiet, cracked, and overgrown with weeds. Warning signs dot the landscape, cautioning visitors about the dangerous ground and toxic fumes. On a cool day, you can still see smoke and steam rising from fissures in the earth, a constant reminder of the inferno that rages below. The section of Route 61 that ran through the town was permanently closed and rerouted after it buckled and split apart. It's now known as the Graffiti Highway, covered in colorful art by visitors drawn to this strange, apocalyptic landscape. Beneath it all, the fire continues its slow, relentless journey unseen, unstoppable. It's a city trapped by something no one could ever outrun. The story of Centralia is a haunting one. It wasn't a catastrophe caused by a hurricane, an earthquake, or some other force of nature. It was a man-made disaster, born from a seemingly small mistake that spiraled into an unstoppable force. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the greatest and most persistent threats are the ones we can't see, the ones that smolder quietly beneath the surface. A fire beneath the ground, a city lost forever, and a mystery that is still burning to this day. Thanks for watching. And if you think this was unbelievable, just wait until you hear about the U.S. town that is slowly sliding into the ocean. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible stories.